When you got to let somebody go from your team, right? And you're like, you know what, this person is dead weight. What went into that decision-making process? Or the reverse, when you got to hire somebody onto your team and you just identified a need and somebody can actually fulfill that need for you, what goes into that decision-making process? How long does it take you to make that decision? And do you follow through with it? Are there key players? Who's the key decision maker, right? These are all things that you want to consider when it comes to increasing your productivity and your performance. And you have to use a decision to do that, right? Now, is this decision going to help you or is it going to hinder you? How do you reduce the amount of time that it takes you to make a decision, right? I'm going to tell you how to do that with 4 simple letters, 4 simple words that you can use as a pattern break and as an anchor, okay, for you to be able to speed up your decision-making process, okay? So the first thing I want to tell you is that usually when you're making a decision, you got to dial in, right? You got to get in tune with what's going on inwardly, right? What's going on internally, right? When you get in tune with what's going on internally, you're really dialing in to what's happening, the inner mechanics, okay? So I like to tell people, if you have a fitness goal, dial into that fitness goal, right? If you have a relationship goal, dial into that relationship goal, okay? If you have, any kind of goals that they may be at the forefront, dial in, really figure out what's happening internally, right? And what I say is, when I ask people a lot, when I speak to my clients who have a decision-making problem, I say, hey, are you dialed in? When was the last time you actually dialed in on that, right? What does that mean, okay? Now, what I want you to think about is those 4 letters, D.I.A.L, D.I.A.L, dial, okay? And I'll break it down for you so that you can use it repeatedly and you can just teach it to anybody. You can teach it to your team, teach it to your kids, whatever it is. You'll see that it works great. It's phenomenal, okay? I just created this acronym because it helped me a lot, all right? So the first thing I want to think about is D. D is for decide. Go ahead and decide on what it is that you want to do, okay? You got to make a decision. No matter how you look at it, you got to make a decision. It's either a yes or it's a no, right? There are no gray areas. There's no maybes, no in-betweens. It's either a yes or it's a no, right? You know whether it's a yes or a no. Maybe you haven't articulated yet, so people don't know, but you know what decision you're going to make. It's a yes or it's a no, right? So the D is for so the D is decide, okay? Go ahead and decide, okay? After you decide, what I want you to do is I want you to interpret that decision. What does that mean to you? What does it mean to the people around you? Who's going to benefit from it? Who's going to gain from it? How will it impact people? How will it affect people, this decision that you've made, right? Now, if you really want to find out, and you're probably a little bit more outgoing and people-oriented, I want you to go ahead and interact with people based on that decision, right? Just to get some feedback, to gather some data, all right? Try to figure out what people think, how people feel about the decision that you're going to make, and just run those scenarios in your head, right? Because what you're doing there is you're doing a risk analysis, okay? So if I make this decision, this might be one of the outcomes, and it's kind of like the butterfly effect, right? But it happens in a lot, faster pace, all right? So go ahead and decide, interpret your decision, and if you're extroverted and outgoing and people-oriented, go ahead and interact with those people that are going to be affected by this decision, all right? The next part of it is for you to go ahead and act, okay? So act on the decision that you've made. If you don't act on it and you don't follow through on this decision, right, and you don't run that scenario, you won't be able to learn from it. You might make some mistakes, this is true. You might hit some bumps along the way, that's true too. But you want to go ahead and act on it, because without acting on it, it's hypothetical, you know what I mean? It didn't really happen, it won't really happen. You got to go ahead and act on it. You have to do that for you to be able to learn from the mistakes that you'll make, right? And that's the L part of D.I.A.L, all right? Go ahead and learn. You got to constantly be learning. You got to be a student of life, right? So once you've made the decision, you interacted and you've interpreted and you've interacted and you've acted on the decision. What have you learned from it, right? Are you able to learn from it and really make that decision again? Right? And did it help you speed up your decision-making process? And more importantly, after you've learned from it, or even as important, right, is can you teach it now? Can you replicate this model? Can you replicate this decision-making process, right, to probably your number 2, the person that you delegate the most, right, to your tactician, to the person in your operations team who's going to carry this out, right? That's the question you want to ask yourself.